it's 4:15, so we're going to get started. We did this last night at the facilities committee meeting, but I think it's nice to do introductions so you kind of know who's at the table. So I'll start, and then if you are a community member, if you would just say your name and that you're a community member. So I'm Ashley McGinnis. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services.
I'm Lisa Forsey, community member.
Kim Miller, board member.
Tiela Dufal, Director of Special Programs.
Chris Hildebrand, I'm a para at Lake.
I'm Kendra Lam, the Director of School Improvement. Lacey Adams, Director of Elementary Education.
Angela Ricky, intervention teacher at HOSTA.
Jan Jewell, community representative, or said present.
Nancy Gregory, community member.
Stacia Studer, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Reba Kendall, community member.
Lara Jeffrey, secondary ed.
Sean Connors, community member.
Wendy Lang, school board member.
Donna Baker, board secretary.
Okay, thank you. And the last time we met, we did go over some norms. So I'm just going to remind everyone of those. The first one is all are welcome at the table. So thank you to those who joined the table to be part of the discussion tonight. The second one is to stay focused on our agenda topics out of fairness for participants, presenters, and the public. To listen to others and share in a respectful manner. And then just being mindful of our time because the Finance Committee does start at 5:15, so we will end at that time. Start on time and end on time. And with that, we will start with our first item, which is school improvement, and Dr. Lau will be presenting.
Sure, so Dr. McGinnis had asked me to put some things together about some of our schools that have been targeted or identified under the Every Child Succeed Act, and that's a federal program. And so what that really is, just to give you a nutshell overview, is that is the federal government looks at our state data and determines if we have certain subgroups that are underperforming as compared to an overall kind of metric or baseline. And so when we meet their requirements, whatever eligibility requirements that they set forth, then we are notified of those schools that have some targeted populations. And then we develop plans with those buildings, whether it's through their professional development plan or their building improvement plan, to focus in on those particular areas. Really what I've done for you today is just try to simplify this because it can get a little complex, but really this little one-pager here really outlines the schools that have been identified under SF as targeted schools. And so there's 3 different classifications. And so I also handed you this document from DESE. So this comes straight from DESE, and it's kind of your little dictionary, I guess, when it comes to trying to better understand some of the classifications. So just quickly, a CSI school is a comprehensive school improvement. So in other words, that's a school that it's in a comprehensive plan, and the government actually provides dollars to support that plan. And so we meet with the state regularly to go over that plan and ensure that those plans are being enacted so that we can see improvement. The other type of school is called an ATSI, and that is an additional targeted support school. And that can happen, for example, if a school is identified in a target area and the improvements that the federal government sets forth aren't necessarily being met at the timely fashion that they would like to see. So there's an additional target and support. In other words, they expect district leadership to work with those schools to develop more targeted and supportive plans around those areas. And then there's a target school, and that's just a school that, hey, this appears to be a problem in the data, needs to be addressed through building improvement plans, needs to be made, building leadership needs to be aware, the elementary director, the director of secondary, need to be aware, all of us are aware of how they can provide additional support to those buildings. So that's just the kind of the 3 flavors, if you will, of schools that are targeted. So if you look at your chart, I basically across the top, I have identified the school, the status that that school is in, whether that be CSI, AT, SI, or CSI, and the identification area. So it also clarifies for you the area that that school, through the lens of metrics data, has been identified as having a group that has met the criteria to be of a concern. The student count that are actually in those subgroups. So I've identified the number of students that are actually comprise that subgroup. And also I've identified for you the content area, and then the goals that they would need to make in 24, 25, and 26, because under this umbrella, you need to make improvements 2 out of 3 years in terms of identification. So this is currently where we are with these particular schools. So you can see then, I'm going to go down a little bit further on this chart, and you can see that we have 2 elementary schools that have been identified. Hosea has been identified for the special education population in math only, and that is about 22 students. And that's the gateway into having that type of an improvement. So it can be a subgroup of 20 students, it could be a subgroup of less than 20 students, but that's the gateway into getting into this improvement area. Lindbergh is a targeted school, and it is for white non-Hispanic children, and that is 166 students that comprise that particular what is identified as a subgroup. So I'm going to move on, and so you guys can get the full picture, and then certainly take questions. And I know that we have some folks here to speak about Hosea's improvement plan. Then if you look at the middle schools that have been identified, Bodie has been identified for Black, not Hispanic groups, and this is the nomenclature that the federal government uses. And there's 31 students in that particular group. Then Bodie's also been identified for special education students in both math and ELA, and that is 34 students. Then Truman has just been identified this year, and so it's for special education, and we'll have to determine what their goals are when we hear a little bit more from the state and federal agencies. Then if you look at the high schools that are identified, you have Benton, and it is in special education, and it is both in math and ELA, and there's 18 students in that particular subgroup. Then at Lafayette, special education has been identified in ELA only, and in that particular population, that's 27 students. So it's a total of 357 students that are in these targeted populations out of our 10,500, total students. So it's about 3.4% of the total population that we're really focused in on through the lens of these types of improvement plans. So I just wanted to clarify that. So right now, we're working really hard with Hosea in terms of their particular plan, and started that plan because they are incomprehensive, so it's a larger scale plan, and we started that work last spring, and through collaboration, Stacia and Lacey and Ashley, Diello, all of us, Lara's been involved even though she's at the secondary level, and have worked really hard to help put that plan together, and we meet on a monthly basis. And then we have our regional director that joins us a couple times a year. And we just met with her, I think, last week again to talk more about the plan, and how that's going. So at that, I will certainly open the floor to questions. There's lots of people here to support whatever questions you might have.
Dr. Lowe, Lindbergh total is 166 students.
Mm-hmm.
And they have 500 students in the school total. Is that the largest?
That's the largest subgroup,
Oh.
yeah, that we have.
And then you said Bodie ELA was 33 students?
It's 34. It's
34.
It was synonymous.
Oh, it was all three, that's
Yeah.
right.
And ELA is English language?
Yes,
Okay,
English
thank you.
language arts, reading.
I was like looking
There you
through all
go.
the.
Yeah, you really do need a whole list when you come to these meetings.
It's just white paper.
You can wallpaper the
Each
the
of these
walls
are the
with
same.
it.
Yep. So Lindbergh is targeted because of the white students. How they're performing.
Because it's in half, is that?
Mhm.
Just a question about the non-Hispanic.
Yeah, that's just the way
And
that
the not
Desi,
Hispanic, I was like,
They-
are those two different categories or are they the same?
the way that it reads on the documents that we receive is white and in parentheses non-Hispanic.
But there
So,
would be another subgroup for.
what's that?
I think what you were asking, I thought was, would there be another subgroup for Hispanic? Is that what you're asking?
I'm looking at the paper and it says either non-Hispanic or the not Hispanic, and so I was like, is there like a difference in between those?
Not to
Two?
my knowledge.
Okay.
I mean, there is a Hispanic
Right.
subgroup, but that's the way that they clarify.
Dr. Lau, are they all, is this all year one or is Hosea year two of their improvement plan?
This is year one of Hosea's improvement. And so from an overall perspective, their students have made, from 2022 to 2023, they've made the gains that they need to make out of the three.
So we'll need one more year of
Yeah,
that for them.
well,
to-
but their special education population has to follow.
Okay.
So it's a little more stringent in the special education population as opposed to the total population, which seems a little counterintuitive because the whole population has to progress less than the subgroup, which is special education. So for example, you can see with math, Hosea has to make right now they started at 0. So they have to make a 4.1, and then the next year it has to double to 8.2 to 12.3. So those are big gains for that particular population. I think Deanna would agree, and so it is a steeper curve.
And so Hosea got their designation last year, and then are the
For
rest?
comprehensive, yes.
Right, so then the rest, how long have they been in TSI?
This was all data that we just pulled off
Okay,
our
just now.
2023's report card.
Okay.
So those designations were just given to us off that report card in terms of what you currently see. But some of these schools have been targeted as early as 2018. We've had some come in and go out. So for example, Central was in and went out. Rubidoux was in and went out. Truman was in and went out. Now Truman's back in. And so Desi, I think would be a correct categorization from our conversation last week, is trying to prevent this revolving door.
Right.
And they're also trying to talk with the federal government about the increments of improvement and how reasonable some of them are. And so that's another piece that we're waiting to hear more information about.
Okay.
Angela Rippey is a teacher at Hosea. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but she is part of that comprehensive team that meets monthly at Hosea. Is there anything, Angela, you'd like to share?
Well, if you guys are interested, I can tell you what it looks like from the teacher perspective a little bit. So kind of how it started this year for us was they surveyed us, like all the teachers, every teacher in the building, to kind of figure out what the needs were, and probably looked at other data for that. And then they came up with like kind of their key things that we need to focus on as a building. And so ours are expanding leadership and increasing sustained learning and growth of all students and staff, improving effective teaching and learning, and the alignment of standards, curriculum, and assessment. And so part of how that looks for us and how we're being supported in that is we're having experts come in and give us professional development, so we're getting a little bit more you know, just a little bit more with resources and with people to help guide us and make sure that we're hitting the targets we need to be hitting. We're in communication with the state, so we get to kind of, you know, get feedback. I get to be luckily a representative on that and get to see what's going on and stuff. And then, so like in schools, we have this idea of like the general classroom, like which is like what we call tier 1, and then we have tier 2 and tier 3, and so our subpopulation that we're talking about would be considered tier 3. But since we're talking about it being a comprehensive plan, really a lot of what we're doing is like very holistic for the building, and so it's really reinforcing the general classroom, and also what we're doing as interventionists, which is my role, and that's like our tier 2, so it's like trying to support all the way up to those students, so they're getting, you know, quality education at every level. So I don't know if you have any questions about that, or.
Thank you.
So you started those interventions last year?
So we've had intervention like processes going, and those always get changed a little bit based on what we think we're prioritizing at that time, like which students, you know. But I think that what my feeling is personally is that we're getting stronger kind of as a whole district at like refining and aligning like what we're all doing together. So we're making a big push, you know, in our growth. So like we've been doing intervention along, but now it's like getting more focused.
You have a new progress monitoring tool.
We have a new progress monitoring tool. We're doing something called Dibbles now. So, and that helps us really dig into some stuff. So we're getting a lot of resources. Like we're kind of at a really like exciting point right now because we can really see things, you know, and communicate what we're seeing with data.
And you guys, the Hosia's had improvements in attendance and outcomes. Can you talk to, I've seen that attendance more frequently than the educational attainment, but could you speak to that?
Yeah, so they put together a really great plan. They made a lot of gains last year, and then they have made really good gains this year. They're at right at an 89%, maybe just shy of that. But they have worked really hard as a team, and I think that's the key. Justin and Jake Kretzer, that's the building administrator and the vice principal, shared with us. Per Dr. McGinnis asked some of the principals to share what was going well from attendance. And what I gathered from that, and I work a lot with the attendance interventionists and them as a team, but what I gathered from that, and I would share with this group, is if they're really working as a team with that attendance interventionist, with the principal, with the building secretary, with the families. They're working really hard to engage families. There's lots of home visits going on. There's lots of phone calls. There's lots of knocking on doors. And they're following all of our protocols in terms of our relationship with the prosecuting attorney and the juvenile office. So they're, I think Justin posted a picture that said it really well. I don't know where it was, maybe Facebook, but it had someone that had all these ladders laying all over the floor, and he finally figured out that if you use the ladder to reach like the top of that tree to get to put a star on top of a Christmas tree, you're actually using your resources. Whereas before, all of the resources are just on the floor because you don't know how to use them. And so I think that team has come together with the utilization of resources, and it's made a big and a dramatic impact. So if the kids are there, it's going to help Angela.
So do you have, like, as far as like academic not just attendance, but like what other things have improved?
Right, and so we're right in the middle. We just opened our middle of the year testing, and so right now, I mean, it's only been open about a week. So as soon as we get more of that information, we'll be able to see what kind of gains. I think they're pretty excited to see that.
And ELD had dropped off because that was an area before that they also qualified in, I believe. I hate to misspeak. So we have seen some academic improvements.
Yes, absolutely.
Dr. Lau, I have a question about the funding. This document mentions that there's funding associated with those schools that are designated. So can you speak to that and tell us, I mean, how much is that? Is it per student, or what is it based upon?
Really, for comprehensive, it's $220,000. And so.
No matter how many students are involved in that?
Well, we didn't ask that question, that's just what they gave us.
That was the.
But that was the sticker price, and so, so we've utilized every bit of that, and we're still looking at ways to
And-
implement that.
And that's per school year, right? Is it, does that, I would
Yes.
assume that changes every year based on if the school continues to stay.
That funding continues, yeah, and they get 2 shots to make it out in 3 years.
So they would get this 220,000 again next year? If this is their first year, then that comes
Right.
again next year.
Right, but that doesn't come from the district, that comes.
Right, I
from-
understand. From the, is it federal or state?
It's from the state, but I'm assuming it flows
Yeah.
from federal.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
It probably helps continuity to all be working on the same page. To have all of those departments aware of what's going on, the improvements, the need, where that work needs to be done. So it's nice probably to have that cohort or that come along.
A
So
lot of
it's-
quality professional development,
Yeah.
and the resources that come along with the funds. But I think the principals would tell you that that's what they've enjoyed the most, is that there's just a real instructional focus and a lot of professional development to back it for the teachers. And so it's a really solid plan. It's very focused and targeted.
Yeah, because it's one thing to just try to do something, but to have the backup, that makes it really appealing.
I think it's interesting too that their discipline referrals have decreased. And I think it's just proof that when you have high quality, engaging instruction to keep kids hooked, then we don't see as many behaviors. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure, with that, and then using like resources really effectively,
Mhm.
you know, and learning how to do that,
Mhm.
you know, together.
Yeah.
But that's the key, to learn how to institute them.
Yeah, yeah. And it feels like is a really notable thing, I think, this year, is there is a lot of alignment and a lot of continuity, and like getting the kids there, and like it's all the pieces are coming together, so.
They've also had a decrease in enrollment significantly, so, you know, I think it's been awesome to see the focus on instruction and the people in the building investing in their own learning to better serve our kids. So. Any other questions on that topic? Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, which is me. So if I can draw your attention to this PowerPoint presentation that's up on the table. This is a presentation that our team gave to Altec and the Altec Foundation this morning. And so Lara, DLO, Stacia, and Gabe, we all went to University of Virginia last year for some professional development. That was all funded by Altec, and they are interested in helping us pursue this professional learning. And it's really guided towards whatever we see as needed in our community and in our school district. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these slides, but I'll kind of skim through them. The bottom slide there on the first page just talks about our purpose for this professional learning, and it's really to provide individualized pathways for our students. So if we have a student who is wanting to go to college, we are making sure that we are providing the learning that gets them there. If it is a student who wants to go straight into the workforce, then we're providing learning to support that desire. And so that is really the purpose of this learning, to empower us to continue building and changing our systems to best serve our kids. And I just want to point out that this is a working document. This page here, if you have that, you should have that at your table. That's the actual implementation plan that we are going off of, and that's the piece that we are going to edit as we go and we learn new needs that we have. So I'll turn the page here to the top where it says professional learning through UVA PLE. What this learning is about is assessing our school district and determining what areas do we need change in, and systems change. And so in the beginning, we thought expanding early childhood was going to be a bold change. And then when we went to this professional learning, they really empowered us and challenged us to think bigger, think bolder, think systems change, think differently. And so that's really what we have done. It is helping build our leadership capacity and helping us address difficult problems and think of ways to solve those issues. So also addressing inequities and achieving improvement in student learning outcomes. So we went to that last October, and then Lara and Stacia did a virtual professional learning one day. I think that they benefited from that, but probably not the best style of receiving professional learning. I couldn't have done a full day of virtual training myself, but they were team players and went through that because Gabe and I couldn't do it. And so we came back, and then in May, we kind of took a pause, and this kind of goes along with the bottom on the timeline as well, because we had a lot going on in our district. We were talking about facilities, we were expanding Hilliard, talking about early learning, so we took a pause on this for just a little bit in May. We fast forward to September, and we went to MASA, which is our learning for superintendents and directors in our region. And the program was about the Success Ready Students Network. This presentation is actually online on our meetings, and there's a link to that Success Ready Students Network. But in a nutshell, that is competency-based learning. So it is mastery of a learning standard, however the student is best served. So traditionally, we have, let's say we have an Algebra 1 course. That student takes that Algebra 1 course, and it's all based on seat time and grade. Okay, so, but if you have a student who is gifted, and they can show that they've mastered those standards, why do we make them sit in that class for seat time, right? We're not serving them well. And so on the flip side, if we have students in there that are not even close to that standard, we want to tailor learning to that student's particular needs. And so that's what competency-based learning is really all about. The other example that we gave this morning to the Altech group, if we have a student who's a Hilliard kid and they're in carpentry, if they can show mastery of the Algebra 1 learning standards through carpentry, why can't we embed credit into that class? And we can. DESE says that we can. We just haven't been doing it. And so we've learned from Jill Huntsman, and we continue to learn as we go in these roles, that our sending schools that are going to Hilliard are doing this. They are embedding math credit and ELA credit. And so we are going to offer that opportunity now for our kids. So that's kind of competency-based learning in a nutshell. It's thinking differently. It's focused on student learning rather than seat time. So we had that learning, and then we had a renewed vision for this learning. The Success Ready Students Network is a network of all the districts, like multiple districts in Missouri, not all, but many, who've applied to be part of that work of competency-based instruction. We all know that when kids take a MAP test and EOC test in April and May, and then they don't get results back until the late summer, sometimes the fall, sometimes never, it's not meaningful. And so kids are taking those assessments without much value, just to be very bold. And I compare this to, I'm a runner and a tennis player, and if I'm running a race and I don't know my time at the end of the race, what's the point? You know what I mean? So DESE is finally listening to this movement of a flawed system, of the way that our instruction has been, the way that our assessments have been. And so they're supportive of the Success Ready Students Network. There's a cohort 1 of 20 school districts who've actually received a waiver for their APR, and they are creating a new assessment platform, which is exciting. There's a cohort 2, and then we applied to be part of what's called the Innovation Zone. So we have an opportunity every month to collaborate with all these other districts and learn about their journey. They're in cohort 1, cohort 2, and then some of them are just beginning like we are, but we're finally a part of that network as well, so we do that once a month. So all of this kind of aligns with the work that we're doing with UVA PLE. They are supporting our learning in regards to competency-based, success-ready students network. So December, that was actually today, we pitched our Altec Foundation plan to them. They've been financially supportive in the past. They want to do that again as long as we are committed and focused. Tomorrow we are meeting with Altec again, and they're actually recruiting some other businesses to hopefully financially pitch in. And just for full transparency, Altec has communicated us wanting to have some skin in the game financially, and so I'm not certain what that would look like right now. What is in the budget is $32,000 is what UVA PLE. With that being said, DESE is offering a competency-based grant. That application is due this Friday, and I am working very hard on it to get it done. But it's up to $400,000. And so if we are able to get even a piece of that, it could help move us forward in this learning.
Dr. Myers, are you saying that that's the award ceiling or that's the total award amount across the state?
That is the total for the grant. Like, my understanding is that's what they're awarding, that's what's on the table.
For everyone that applies?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is this 32,000 for like our district that Altec paid?
Altec paid everything last year.
Mm-hmm.
They would be paying much more this upcoming year. And I don't have that exact dollar amount right now because we just revised the plan. The plan that they submitted to us had virtual pieces in it, and we communicated we don't benefit as much from that. So what we would like to do is the professional learning in person, and then also do 4 check-ins virtually with them, and then they would send a team here. So that's what that would, so they just revised that contract. I think it's around $80,000 that Altec is willing to pay. But don't quote me on that.
Is that the amount for last year as well, or was it cheaper last year?
I'd have to get you that. Gabe took care of all the finances until just like last week, and then I'm going to take charge of this if that's okay. He said yes. So I can get that for you, though. I can't remember off the top of my head. Do you know, Donna? But they did fully fund all of that learning last year. And so this key commitment actions really goes along with the commitment actions on this page. I just put the key ones on here for the presentation this morning. The things we're talking about doing is more apprenticeships. Currently we have 24 seniors at Hilliard that are getting all of their credits for their senior year and working at places like Altec, Herzog, Gray Manufacturing, there's one at Anderson Ford, so there's lots of folks, seniors, that are getting paid apprenticeships and getting their credits. That's the kind of work that we're wanting to do and to really help guide kids into the right direction for their careers. Yeah?
Are you going to do that for all the programs?
Do what, I'm sorry?
Apprenticeships and things.
Well, right now we're focused on the Hilliard piece.
Yeah, all the programs at Hilliard.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity there for sure for all the kids. Yeah.
Do you know when so the grant application is due on the 15th?
Yes.
Do you know when the award
I do not.
period would be?
I did not see that on the application. They did extend it, so I'm wondering if they didn't have as many applications because it's a process.
Let's hope so.
It's a long process. So they extended the due date to the 15th. So hopefully we'll have a shot at least a piece of that. But then another thing, this is kind of something that Stacia has talked about, just being mindful of the needs in our community. So we all know we are mostly manufacturing town, and so there's lots of needs at Altec and those type of places, but also we need officials. And so creating an elective course that would allow high school kids to become certified officials to fill that need. And we've talked about how our business courses at the high school level are primarily for kids who are wanting to go to college for business, But if we could offer those opportunities for maybe somebody who wanted to start up their own lawn care and helping guiding them through that route. And so, again, it all comes back to individualized educational pathways. So there's a lot of things on here. They're also all listed on here, and we will tweak these as we go. And then the last page here is really our why we want to do this. And so we have some students on here. They've all given me permission. Quentin Garrett is one of our kids who's a Grow Your Own teacher. He graduated from Lafayette, he's going to Missouri Western, and he is going to be a special education teacher. We are funding that as a Grow Your Own recipient, and then he will return to the St. Joseph School District and serve 1 year for every year of funding he receives. So he'll be with us at least for 4 years. Matthew Kelly is a Hilliard apprentice, and he's at Hilliard right now. Mariana Sanchez is a Missouri Western graduate student and was a Benton grad. She's a Grow Your Own. She's going to be an elementary teacher, and she's also working on her TESOL at Missouri Western, so she'll be part of the ELD department. She also works here on Fridays because Missouri Western has Fridays off, so she's helping as a family advocate. And then Jet Wynn, Lafayette Senior, Hilliard apprentice, and he's at Herzog. So I just think that's pretty impressive when you have a non-traditional path, and so just getting all of his senior credits while he's starting his career. And then with Jet, they've even talked about investing more in him through college and offering him that opportunity. So I just wanted to highlight our why we continue to be very passionate about this work in competency-based learning. I'll take any questions that you may have.
It's not a question, it's a comment. It's always lots of questions in the community about the business involvement in the district and wide and everything like that. And it's just, I think it's really good about the Altech giving all of this money in order to give our admin, our educational leaders, other avenues to gain professional development, and then the collaboration with other school districts is just amazing, and I just want to commend them for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Mike Moore has been wonderful, and he's actually leading that meeting tomorrow, kind of challenging other businesses to step up and help us financially. But like I said, he also wants us to have skin in the game, so
right.
I'm trying to help that with a grant. We'll see.
And that just makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
In order to be able to offer more, and in order to be able to grow, our leaders need, to go out and learn, from other people in other districts, and then in order to bring it back, to our district and do what's good on our kids and our community.
Thank you. And I also want to point out, we are being very financially responsible with Altech's dollars. Just like the virtual learning, that was a component of UVA PLE, but not beneficial for us, so we're taking that off. And so just being, whatever resources and supports they offer, they don't bill us unless we use it.
That's good. I mean, I know that you're not going all over the country on like
right.
private jets or anything like that.
It's just
That's what some people think.
It's one learning a year, and then the 4 virtual check-ins, and then they would come here for learning as well.
It's amazing. Thank you.
I'm curious about who monitors the individualized plans for the students. Does the counselor, the classroom teacher, who would monitor
I would say
that?
it's a team approach. Counselors and principals are heavily involved in that process because, especially at the high school level, and that's primarily what we're talking about here, secondary, middle school and high school. The counselors are usually the ones involved with scheduling those courses, but sometimes a kid may have a connection with a PE teacher whose dad is an electrician. And so it's kind of whoever is connected with those kids, and all of our students have a homeroom teacher, and so just making those connections. I'd say it's a wraparound team.
Kind of like an advisor at college level. I would imagine.
Are you going to increase the number of classes, counselors in order to manage that individual plan?
I don't foresee us increasing counselors. Robert Segrist will be in here at 5:15 to talk about finances, and he tells us we can't add any more positions. So
okay.
I don't see us adding more. If anything, it would just be a mind shift of just helping our kids in this way, rather than cookie cutter classes. This is what you need to have. Just making sure our learning is tailored to that student's needs.
Oh, exactly. Thank you.
Any more questions for me? Okay, with that, we'll move to item 3, paraprofessionals recruiting and retaining, and Deala Duvall is going to lead us in that.
Okay, so I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. There have been a few people that have heard me talk about this in the past. I know I've talked to our previous board president about it, and of course finance, the finance department. So in the special education department, along with English language development and early childhood, we do have the majority of the paraprofessionals in our department. And so I tend to, I guess, be the one that is always looking for staff and then trying to retain our staff when it comes to that. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody kind of understood where we were at. We've talked a lot at meetings about our contractual services and how we do hire through contractual companies for certain positions. And those have been primarily through special education, and the reason for that is we have to provide those services. So if it is written in an IEP, we have to provide that support. And so when we cannot hire someone directly through the St. Joseph School District, then we are really forced to find someone, and that's when we have contracted services. So I shared with you guys, the very first thing is the salary schedule, and I just wanted, they can be confusing to look at, so I wanted to explain the salary schedule for our paraprofessionals. So if you'll notice down at the bottom, there's a little box, and it'll say paraprofessional tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So a tier 1 paraprofessional would be our English language development paraprofessional, and we have currently 2 hired. We have 2 that we have been trying to hire all year, and I have not received any applicants. You can see the starting salary, if you go over to range 2, is $13.31 an hour. A paraprofessional tier 2 is going to be a special education paraprofessional, and that would be a paraprofessional that is not in a programming classroom or in a classroom where they're needing to show, like have extreme support, like maybe changing pants, diapering, things like that. So that would be a tier 3. So that's kind of the difference. If it's a programming classroom, they're going to go ahead and get that next tier, that tier 3 when they're hired. So if you look across the top there for step 1, you've got $13.31 for a non-SPED paraprofessional. That also could be a title para. Range 3 is $13.85, and range 4 is $14.90 an hour. So that is where we start. With that, I had the business office because I've been getting a lot of feedback from individuals that we are offering positions to. They get excited, they want to come work for us, and then for one reason or another, they are not accepting the position. And I am seeing a pattern that the reason why they're not accepting the position is they cannot live on that wage. So you'll see on your little packet, I have in there a sample salary. So I had the business office do a SPED para tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 at the beginning rate, what that monthly base pay would be, what retirement is taken out for that, federal taxes, state taxes, and so on, and then what the employee would net. And that is if they were to be choosing the insurance that is provided by the district, which is the HSA, and not adding any family members. So your other paper shows that. So what we pay for our premiums. So I just wanted to have a realistic picture for everyone of what we're up against. And I understand that we need paraprofessionals. For instruction. So we need it for all areas, not just special education.
Deala, can you go back through? So I have, I don't think I'm following you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So this document.
Yes.
You have this document.
Yes.
And that's the $13.31, the $13.85, and the $14.90.
Yes.
That's current.
That's what it looks like they did, yeah, $14.90, so that's current.
And then did you say you had a proposed?
No, I'm not proposing
Oh, no,
anything,
no.
I'm going to, I'm just explaining.
Okay.
So this is just to recruit and retain, because so basically we are trying to get more people to come and apply for this position, and you can put it together that what I'm trying to show is that we are not able to do that right now with our current pay. So the next thing I want to talk about is on my talking points, I had that we did check with other people in the community, which would be our direct competitors, Head Start and Helen Davis. And so when I talked to Ashley with Head Start, she shared with me that they start their paraprofessionals at $16 an hour. And Helen Davis, which is also a direct right here in the community, they're at $17.82. So we are not competing in the community with our, what I would call our competitors for the same type of job.
And Deola, your staff are working 5 days a week. They have students 4 days.
Yes.
I think that's another important thing to add, that the Head Start staff are working 36 hours a week. So they're working 4 days and getting that higher wage as well.
Correct. So like I mentioned earlier, we have had to go out to contractual staff to ensure that we can cover these positions. And I can only do that with special education because it's in the IEP. So therefore, that's why I have openings still in English language development. I'm not sure, you could maybe speak on if we have any title para openings. But we cannot, when we've tried to hire for maybe some behavioral support or extra intervention help, we're really struggling with getting any applicants. So what started to happen, so we have to pay a rate, right, for our contractual staff. Our rate that we pay the contracted company is anywhere between $32 and $36 per hour. Wow. And then, so from that, our paraprofessionals, they get their rate, and I don't know what everyone makes, but I do know what some have shared, and so anywhere from $17 to $21 an hour is what they're receiving from the company. So we don't pay their benefits, right? So there's a benefit package and such, but they do have benefits available through those companies. So it's just different than ours. So what you've seen, I'm sure, as when Dr. Segros had said multiple times in meetings, our contractual, our costs keep going up and going up, and eventually, which is what I shared a couple of years ago, eventually what's going to happen is it's just off, right? So could we please give our staff more to try to, balance it out? If we could pay close to what, if not more, what the others, what they're getting, then we have in our contract that these contractual staff, once they have worked for this other company in our district for a year, they can move over to us. And I believe a lot of them would, because we do have a lot to offer in our district, and it is a great place to work. So with that being said, I wanted to share that because I know money is tight, and I know that we have concerns over our budget, and but I also am an advocate for our staff and for our paraprofessionals and our students that need the extra support. And the way to give them extra support, instructional support, is our paraprofessionals. And so with that, I brought an individual, or I invited an individual to come. So really she's boots on the ground all the time. And so if you have anything to share.
I work at the Early Learning Center at Lake. I do know someone who makes $13.31 an hour. She's amazing. My 16-year-old daughter makes more than that, handing you coffee through a window, which indicates to me that our community values coffee more than it does education. I also work next one room over to a lady who has worked for our district for 24 years and makes, I believe, like around $21 an hour. And then when we hire someone new, and she realizes that this person might also make $20 an hour with no experience, it's pretty upsetting. I feel that we love the children, and that's why we're there, because no one working in preschool is getting rich. We're there. At Convocation, Dr. Edgar spoke of one team. And I feel in our building, there are 55 people working in our building. That's not just paras, that's everyone, that's everyone. And I do think we bought into that one team. I just don't, it just doesn't feel that the district buys into us. When
It's demoralizing when someone new starts.
It's
and you give them
upsetting,
lunch.
it is. My teacher went on maternity leave for 2 months. She had her child a month early, he's doing beautifully. She came back last week, so I had a full-time, what do you call that, like a?
Substitute.
Yeah, I had a sub, and it was the same person every day, which was fabulous. Everyone helped me so much, so I know we're all on the same page. I also don't understand, and I'm sure you don't either, that we could pay this company what did you say, $34 an hour?
It's a range, yes.
Okay, and then
$32 to $36 per hour.
$32 to $36 an hour, and then we have people who make $13.31
It's
or
ridiculous.
$15. It's
Well, I think a lot
and we know this is happening in our building, so I want to know what's going to keep everyone from just jumping ship.
Well, Head Start can only hire so many people.
Yeah, I'm just like, what?
I just gotta say it as much as possible there, it's free marketing.
I mean,
Well, and so this is where, the retainment comes in. Like, we have the retention, like, we've got great staff and we want to keep them. And I'm vetting and hearing these things on a regular basis and receiving emails. And I believe that we're a wonderful organization to work for. And I want our staff I want the contractual people to come on over and work for us, but they're not going to if they're going to take a pay cut, unless really the insurance is that much better or, the benefits are that much better. And so, I had another employee that left because she could make more money working elsewhere and as a substitute. And so, but she loved it so much, she still worked 2 days a week as a para because she did not want to leave the kids. So I think that that's just keeping that in mind. So when I talked about it, kind of the scales tipping, right now I had checked, we have 40 contractual paras right now.
So I was gonna bring this up before he walked in.
I know, I was gonna
Maybe he's not bringing it up. He's not gonna pay attention.
Maybe
so
you
it's
should go
fine.
back in the hallway, see us.
You're not gonna like
I spend a decent.
Yeah, you got
get over it. I spend a decent amount of time with nutrition services, and I think the things that you guys are talking about are very similar to them. It's a compressed salary schedule. It's when you bring new staff in and you increase the base. If you don't increase the entire schedule, then it creates that compression and it creates hard feelings. We have a recruitment and retention committee meeting the 19th or the 20th? The 20th.
At what time?
I didn't know it was the 20th. The 20th at some time.
It's 5 o'clock.
So I would propose that we take this and really the entire, I think we've gone through the certified staff scale recently, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I think bringing those other support services, including paras, including nutrition, including some of those other positions to make sure that what's happening there, because it is demoralizing. When I started at CAT, those were not our wages. I like to talk about our wages because those were not our wages 8 years ago. We were paying $10, $11 an hour. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. He doesn't know what we're talking about, so that's good.
I've already.
Okay, he's like, I already figured it out. But I think it's something, if you start now, you can make really big gains. But if you don't have a goal to what you're trying to go to or how you're going to get there, then we're never going to get through it. So I would just say bring it to the committee.
Okay, my question is though, it's how many
Right now,
contracted
we have
paras?
40.
If we can afford to pay $32 an hour for the don't look at me, Seegers, you're making me sweat. If we can afford in order to pay that amount on the 40 people, it'd be easier to increase it like across the board and make it even for everybody and not only these extra people and they're doing that same job and they're not even our employees yet.
So how Helen Davis does it, which I found that it's totally a different type of salary schedule, but everybody starts at the same amount and then they get a percentage increase. So if say there is a 2% increase, then everybody gets that. It doesn't matter what job you have, everybody's going to get that percentage increase.
Well, that's what we did. I mean, that's give everybody a 2.6% increase last year.
But when they come in, they start all of the same.
Well, and we do that, that's what we do at Head Start, but when we raise that 2%, we raise it the entire scale. So the bottom will go up 2%,
Exactly.
but then every single person goes up 2%, which is,
That's what we did.
then we need to do it every year.
So really,
But if
what's
you also start off, I have the same job secrets, I get it, it's just because it's hard, and we don't need to do it. But I think that's the thing, is that if you're already starting off so low, when you're at $13, 2.6%, and waiting around for 2.6 every single year is, in 20 years, you can make a living wage.
May I ask you, though, why we have gone to the contractual is to make sure we
have to be
compliant
Yes.
and then have the spots full.
Yes, and we're still not full, but yes, we have to be compliant. And so it feeds into the academics, because as you saw today, even the areas where we need extra support, we are still struggling in special education. And that's with trying to fill our spots and with,
You just have one company that you work with?
we have two. But primarily, we hire almost
I'm a
everybody.
contractor, so I
Yeah, almost
understand
everybody
where you're
comes through
coming from.
supplemental health. And we do also have quantum, but
I know, but a change has to be made. I mean, in all honesty, if a para quit their job now and was contracted, in a week you could be doing the same job making more money.
so we have had to tell them that we can't then hire, we can't do that, because we can't let people jump like that. So we have had people come and ask, and say, I'm quitting and I'm gonna go through this company or whatever, but we've had to say no, because that's not what we want, for one. We want our employees to be able
Well,
to.
but that's a system that we're creating, it would be silly not to try to do that,
So,
so.
and I understand that,
Yeah.
but you can also understand the
Oh,
other
for sure. Oh,
piece.
absolutely.
And then the other thing is when we do hire through contractual, I mean, that goes through our department. That does not go really through HR, so that is a whole nother piece of keeping track of the staff and the paperwork and all of that. So,
Let's take it to the recruitment and retention
Okay.
committee.
Yes.
I'll send an email. Dr. Krause will be excited.
he
And
knew I
what's
was
minimum
going,
wage?
he knew I was gonna speak tonight.
Okay, good.
What's minimum wage right now? I know that it goes up at the beginning of the year.
12 something, 12?
Wendy, what's going on?
I think it's 12 right now, it's going to be
Going up.
12.60, I think.
Okay.
So we have 4 minutes. Anybody have any other questions?
Can't we just like have the pay scale start at $21 or $22 and just bump the whole?
Yeah, we can.
Let's do it.
I'm saying for the
I would love
parents,
to
for the parents.
have them do that, yeah. I mean, that's,
But for the parents, I mean,
$12.90.
those are very low wages, like,
I have a college degree.
that's very low wages.
Yeah, and I mean, we're gonna have that, everybody has that has not really been, I'm gonna stop talking.
Well, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our group? I appreciate everybody participating. I appreciate the discussion, so thank you very much. Have a great night.